Dan Sodergren is a digital marketing and tech expert and is with us. Dan, good to have you on the programme. I mean, Elon Musk, he seems to be announcing lots of new Twitter policies on the hoof via tweets.
Yeah, he does seem to be, doesn't it? It's amazing. The world's richest man, when he takes over one of the larger social media platforms and treats it like a plaything, then, surprise enough, treats it like a plaything. And it does seem that he's bringing things out, especially if you notice the thing about the parodying. That seems to be happening to him quite a lot. And therefore, he's taken that quite personally. And I think one of the quickest things he can do, therefore, is to crush all of that kind of stuff, as he's kind of become a little bit like a dictator in the world of Twitter at the moment, because, of course, he did get rid of the board and he's just kind of semi-fired half of the people there. So, yeah, it does seem that he's doing a lot of this stuff as he goes along, as he makes it up.
Now, we haven't seen a mass exodus of Twitter users that we know of anyway in terms of data, but we have seen another social media platform called Mastodon seeing a huge increase in the numbers of people flocking to it. Can you take us through that a bit, because it's probably a brand that's unfamiliar to many people?
Yeah, I mean, Mastodon itself was created in 2017. It's a kind of a decentralized kind of non-Twitter Twitter, so to speak. It's a way of using open source and decentralizing the whole thing. So you go on and you own your own servers. Good analogy would be it's a bit like building your own house compared to turning up to a football stadium. So it's a very, very different proposition, and it's a bit more complicated. But yeah, a lot of people are leaving Twitter and going to that place. They were saying actually it's about 230,000 users that are now gone to the Mastodon. It's actually a bit higher than that now. Just a quick one as well, because you're saying we don't have the data on people leaving. We actually do have the data on people leaving, and it's potentially about twice as many as it was before Elon Musk took over. Now, of course, he might say that is just coincidence and it's just fake news. But that's actually the data coming out, that quite a few people are leaving. But I think we have to be careful here. You know, the death of Twitter has been misreported and highly exaggerated.
Dan, we're hearing reports this afternoon that Elon Musk is saying US voters should back Republicans in the midterms. This obviously comes alongside reports, including on the BBC, about targeted disinformation through social media, which could influence the outcome. I mean, clearly Twitter isn't doing much about this at the moment if its new owner is saying that voters just should back Republicans.
Well, again, this is a huge problem, of course. This is, a very rich, very powerful white men owning media is not new, is it? They used to own newspapers and then, radio stations and TV, etc., which is why, BBC and other things are impartial, and that's a really powerful thing. What he's doing is potentially, well, it depends on which viewpoint you have, but it does seem to be a little bit politically motivated. I don't think he actually delayed the rolling out of the verification until after this political moment. I think he actually wanted to do it before. They just couldn't get the ducks in a row, so to speak. But yeah, it's a slightly worrying thing, because of course, if one person has so much power, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you've got to be a little bit worried that you've got someone who is he's saying he's defending free speech. At the same time, he then fires all or most of the human moderators that were trying to safeguard us against hate speech and insightful stuff on Twitter. So we've got to really look at his actions. His actions don't seem to be defending free speech. It seems to be defending his version of free speech, which apparently, from his own tweets, is pretty right-wing.
Just briefly, Dan, anything on the staff layoffs and exactly how that's going to play out? Because we heard from people at the end of last week talking about these emails they got in the middle of the night to the ones that are living in the UK anyway, and just that kind of breach of procedure.
Well, if the future of work, I really hope that the future of work is not the way that Elon Musk believes you can do it. I mean, it's almost a playbook on what you don't do to do for staff. But of course, his argument is that it's been hemorrhaging cash and he had to get rid of half the staff. Whether you should do that in a blanket email you don't even sign and then let people wait by their machines until they know they've been fired or not is, I think, just callous and cowardly and cruel. But he's also now being sued by a variety of folks. Of course, that law, employment law, is different in different countries. And of course, it's a global company. He's also, him, not personally, but Twitter's also apparently asking some of the people back because they've actually fired a few too many, and it's been a bit of a blanket thing. So the whole thing does seem to be a bit of a mix, but of course a mess up. And of course, this is why we tend to have lots of people on boards and lots of people, that stop one person taking over massive tech companies and doing this kind of stuff.